Good day to our thesis advisor, Professor Fortune Josephine Sagnit, to the panelists, Professor Leia D.C. Veloso, Professor Mary Angelica Bakungan, Professor Ronald Gutico, and also to our research teacher, Professor Jermil Angeles. I am Dave Martin Emondilia, and I would like to greet you all a pleasant day. We will be presenting our proposed study entitled Current State of Philippine Micro, Small, and Medium-Sized Enterprises During the COVID-19 Pandemic, a Basis for Intervention Business Plan. Together with my group mates, Ms. Micamil Lazaro, Ms. Luisa Ann Aquino, Ms. Jubilette Enriquez. For introduction of the study, here is Ms. Micamil Lazaro.
Thank you, Mr. Mundilia. Good day, everyone. I am Micamil Lazaro, and I will be presenting the introduction of our study. Micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises play a vital role in the Philippine economy by fostering growth, employment, and income. This is according to the Department of Trade and Industry on 2019. In the Philippines, MSME is defined as any business activity or enterprise engaged in industry, agribusiness, or services that has an asset size of up to 100 million and an employment size with less than 200 employees. And according to the Asian Development Bank, MSMEs is the backbone of economies in Asia and are considered the driving force. MSMEs comprises 99.5% of business establishment in the Philippines and employs approximately 63% of the country's workforce. In the past years, MSMEs was responsible for 40% of the country's gross domestic product. But with the current COVID-19 outbreak wreaking havoc on the Philippines, made most of the business establishment to close temporarily. Specifically, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, as they are more vulnerable to crisis than large firms. That has led to economic losses. During the second quarter of 2020 and almost 4 months since the community quarantine was put in place, the country's GDP sunk to 16.5% from 40% as the Philippines experienced recession due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, MSMEs plays a more active role in helping the Philippine economy recover from the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since MSMEs comprises 99.5% of business establishment and 63% of the country's workforce, giving them a timely support, they can contribute more meaningfully to our economy. And as our researchers, and to contribute meaningfully to the country's economic recovery post-COVID-19 outbreak, we have come up to this study that aims to know the current state of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the Philippines during COVID-19 pandemic. It also seeks to provide an intervention business plan to help and support to overcome the continuous negative effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, for the statement of the problem and the research paradigm of our study, here is Ms. Aquino.
Thank you, Ms. Lazaro, for presenting the introduction of our study. I am Luisa Ann Aquino, and let's now proceed to the statement of the problem. The micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises are part of our nation's growth. However, these businesses are also facing challenges and threats for its survival growth. These problems and threats may include the financial, strategic, operational, and administrative issues, according to Bagadi 2021. Year 2019, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it created an enormous shock for businesses, especially to the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This made most of the businesses to close temporarily that has led to economic losses. This research intended to determine the current situation of Philippine MSME during the COVID-19 pandemic. We also seek to provide an intervention business plan to support these affected businesses. The problem is stated to have a clear and concise representation of the issues that needed to be addressed. And given all the statements that are mentioned, the researchers seek to find the answer to the following questions. Number 1. How MSME may describe in terms of location or region, number of establishment operating during the pandemic, status of limited operation, financial condition, and employment condition. Number 2. Among the types of enterprises, which is the most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic? Number 3. What factors are affecting MSME during COVID-19 pandemic? And the last question, what interventions may help and support these affected businesses? The created problems was to discover the current status of Philippine MSME during the COVID-19 pandemic, for us to come up to the strong intervention business plan as a support to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Now, let's proceed to the research paradigm. A research paradigm consists of relevant variables of the study and maps out how they might relate to each other. In our study, it consists of 3 phases, which are the input, process, and the expected output of the study. The input includes the independent variables, which are the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the country. The process shows how the researchers will gather relevant information using internet-based data. Data gathered include information from articles, journals, websites, and other sources on MSME. Data coming from these platforms will be analyzed and synthesized by organizing the sources, outlining the structures, writing the paragraph and sentences, and revising or editing. This will be done to help the researchers generate results and conclusions. While the output shows the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on operational status of MSME in the country and what are the factors affecting these businesses. The collected information will be used to develop intervention business plan to support the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And now, here is Ms. Enriquez to present the research design and the procedure of the study.
Thank you, Ms. Aquino, for presenting the statement of the problem and research paradigm of our study. I am Jubilette Enriquez, and let us now proceed to the research design and procedure of the study. Our study will focus on describing the current state of Philippine MSMEs during the COVID-19 pandemic. The researchers will use descriptive research design which accurately and systematically describe a population, situation, or phenomenon according to MacCombes 2019. The aim of descriptive research is to describe the problem and its solution. It is also focused on characterizing or explain the condition, population, or phenomenon as accurately and systematically as possible according to MacCombes 2019. It is an acceptable option when the aim of the research is to clarify the characteristics, frequencies, trends, and categories. The procedure of the study. To determine the current state of micro, small, and medium enterprises during the COVID-19 pandemic, the researchers will gather information through data mining from reliable resources, such as Philippine Statistics Authority and Department of Trade and Industry, and other reputable sources. The first step of this approach is to gather data from reputable websites, which include government websites, web published reports, and other information sources on micro, small, and medium enterprises during the pandemic. To ensure the validity of the information, the researchers thoroughly check the websites following the interpretation of data. It will be analyzed, and tables and graphical presentation will use in illustrate significant data to generate results, conclusion, and recommendations. To further discuss the flow of the study, the researchers used the following procedures. We have data gathering, interpretation and analysis of data, reporting of findings, conclusion, and recommendation. For data gathering, determine the current status of Philippine MSMEs during the COVID-19 pandemic, and collect data through browsing reliable sources. For interpretation and analysis of data, interpret data using tables and analyze the current situation of MSMEs in the Philippines during COVID-19 pandemic. And now, here is Mr. Mondilla to present the data collection procedure and statistical analysis of data.
Thank you, Ms. Juvelet Enriquez. Good day, I'm Dave Martin M. Mondilla, and now let us proceed to data collection procedure. Web-based analysis will be used in this study, which requires an extensive data mining from reliable and reputable website. The step in this data is to gather raw data from libraries, website, web-published reports, articles, journals, and other sources on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. In ensuring of the validity of gathered information, the researchers truly check the website and ensure its reliability. The data gathered were treated in descriptive manner where the researchers summarize the characteristic of a dataset regarding the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. According to Ferguson 2014, data mining is a technique for gleaning meaningful patterns and evidence from a vast amount of data. Now, let's proceed to statistical analysis of data. The researchers will use secondary analysis as information will come from published articles and journals regarding the current state of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the Philippines during pandemic. Gathered data will be treated in an inferential manner, organized and analyzed with frequency count and its respective percentage. The researchers will also use time series analysis on the most affected type of enterprises due to COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for listening on our virtual presentation entitled Current State of Philippine Micro, Small, and Medium-Sized Enterprises During the COVID-19 Pandemic.